Thank you for taking the time this morning to be here. I'm Greta Chapman, for those of you that I don't know. Harry and I and our granddaughter Jane, and we have two sons, Sam and Max, that have periodically been at Emmanuel. We've been here, coming to Emmanuel for over 25 years. Today's program is about our Heritage Next Generation project. And as has been mentioned previously, it was through a generous donation of the John Vukovich grant, which needs to be a John Vukovich program of how we came about those funds as well and who he was in all of this. We're 136 years old this year. And Donna Burnap, I think everybody knows Donna, but if not, she can raise her hand, was incredibly instrumental in 125th anniversary, and as a historian and archivist, I mean, all the work that she did and people's participation in that, you know, an organization and individual stories are priceless. You know, it really is what makes us know where we came from and gives us hope and direction for where we're going, and passing that on to the younger generation and hearing their side. So Donna's work was just amazing in all of this. So the synopsis of the grant is, the first phase is to organize and develop an index and convert documents, photos, videos, CDs, cassette tapes to get started on formatting those things into a digital format. So this touchscreen will be taken back there and available for folks to look at the resources. We have some videos loaded, some documents, and some photos. It's just, again, in the initial stages of things. The organization of it is we're still working on things, but titling makes a big difference. I'm going to put Joanne's up here. The audio is a little bit different in here than it will be out in its space.
The primary reason that we have ordinance in church is to lead the congregation in the community and
Just touch the buttons. Okay? You can't hurt it, just touch the buttons. We have Beverly Troll and her video told by Donna Burnap. There's an amazing history there with the guilds from the early 1900s to present day ECW. You have a handout that's a general introduction, and then on the back, of course, it says snippets of history. These are just snippets. The goal is to have a digital timeline that will really fill out the history, because again, it's priceless in what we have to share with each other and also with the community. With that, I'm going to turn this over to the panelists, and we have three ministries here today, Altar Guild, ECW, and music. So the two questions are, was there an event that you want folks to remember or know about going forward for the future? And what's different today than what it was when you started? And what do you think about that for the future? So, event for the future and what's different for the future. David Martinson? You might want to introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I'm Dave Martinson, and actually I've been the choir director, I believe, here for 12 years. Ethel Rollins was choir director, I believe, longer than me. I don't know if anybody else has ever been choir director any longer than that. And on my left, of course, Joanne was our organist for many, many years and did an absolutely phenomenal job. In fact, let's give Joanne a round of applause. And Dwight always kind of, I have to always make sure that he behaves himself in choir, but we always get by. As far as what's been different over the years, we have far more college students now in choir than we had previously. And that was actually something that Father Chris suggested years ago, but we finally got to the point where we were like, well, maybe we better give this a shot. And truthfully, I think that's a good idea, and I think we'd be in a little bit of trouble if we didn't have the college choir members. We presently have 4 students from School of Mines who are here very faithfully, and we've got 4 students from Black Hills State, and I think partially because of the distance and so forth, we don't see them quite as often. We usually have 1 or 2 out of those 4 from Black Hills State that are always here. And as far as planning for the future, we need to go and make sure that we're going to go and continue to have those college students involved with us. I think without it, we'd have a bit of trouble. And actually, they are paid. They are given a stipend. It's kind of a scholarship thing. And it's only eligible for people that are in college. And that's actually set up to go and help encourage people to be involved with church music. So what we're hoping for with these college students is after they're done with college and after they're done here, that when they go out into the real world, wherever the real world is, but when they go out and let's say they're teaching, that they probably would be more likely to sing in the choir in that community and perhaps even be the church choir director in that particular community. So that's part of the reason why we have that scholarship going, is to try to promote church choir membership long-term and to keep it going. And does anybody have any questions about anything? Okay.
Thank you.
I guess I'd like to start by saying each one of you have been involved in the organ as it stands today. Because early on, there was only a very, very few pipes. And we started the organ fund very early. In fact, some of you may remember the St. Anne's Alderville. They had a fundraiser to start with the pipes. And lo and behold, how did they get their funds? They had a card party here in the church. And it seems like all of the things that we did to raise money to put the pipes in was done with a fun activity. So we'd like to thank those people, and especially John Bakurvich for setting up the funds to start this. He was very instrumental, and his wife Connie. We had a great big poster with the doxology written on it because a lot of people didn't know the words or the tune. And I would only play the organ on the pipes or the notes that were sold. And that got to be pretty interesting. In fact, Connie was so adamant about getting all of the pipes played that, I don't know, that went on for about 2 months or so. And then she couldn't stand it any longer, so she bought the whole thing. But we are at the max now as far as organ pipes are concerned. But one interesting thing, when they started adding the pipes, they had to build out the organ to put the pipes in. And they had to get special permission from the city to expand into the city in the alley there. So that was interesting. There are very, very few pipe organs in South Dakota. And ours being one of the best, I would say, because there have been plenty of organists that have played it and have come from all over the United States. And they said that it was one of the best organs they have played on. And right now, it might be the only working organ in Rapid City. Either they don't work anymore or they don't use it. They've gone to bands.
All right, we will now move on to facilities.
As we walk around the church, every Sunday, there are little things that we don't always pay attention to. The lectern there is actually from the Hobart Funeral Home. That came from the Hobart Funeral Home, went to the Catherine Osheim Funeral Home, to the Osheim and Schmidt Funeral Home. When they remodeled, I saved it from the dumpster. This cross right here is called God's Sign Language. And it was, the cross of symbols, it began as simple craft, thank you, craft project from a lady called Elizabeth Lilly. And this was started in the Diocese of Georgia. And Vacation Bible School here at Emmanuel Episcopal Church was the first time it was actually used to be put together in the summer of 1965. At that time, the Lillies had been transferred here with the Air Force, and it just started growing and growing. Eventually, they moved to California, and through her dissertation to get her doctorate of divinity or master's of divinity, this was a major part of her thesis. Now, all of this history is on that little plaque. A couple different things. The descending dove with the nimbus is on the very top. This is the only authentic symbol for the Holy Spirit. And another symbol on there is the fleur-de-lis, which is also called the Trinity, and it is also the popular symbol for Mary, Jesus' mother. And of course, on there is also the lyre, all music rendered to the praise and glory of God. There's a cross that used to hang up there before the sound panels went up. That cross is now hanging downstairs in the old choir room downstairs. It's now the youth group room. But that's the Harriet Wilson Cross Collection. And in 1987, a letter was sent to the cathedral by Lila Jensen and Reverend Linda Kramer from here at the church to be returned to Emmanuel. Now, why it was sent to Sioux Falls, I don't know. They probably thought it was something where they could use in their section over there. But anyway, it was returned here, and let's see, members of the committee to put all those collection of crosses on that cross, started by Lila and Reverend Linda, Laurel Orville, Betty Furwa, Gertrude Wilhite, Dawn Gifford, and Nellie Rambo were all part of that committee to put that cross together, but that is now downstairs. Oh, by the way, why do priests wear funny clothes? This is an historical accident. It is based roughly on the garments worn by Roman officials in the early days of the church. The church has added the Christian symbols to the robes, but being Anglicans, we haven't actually really changed anything. The Episcopal Church seal. The red cross of St. George on a white field is symbolic of the Church of England. The blue field in the upper left corner is the Episcopal Church. It features the cross of St. Andrew in recognition of the fact that the first American bishop was consecrated in Scotland. This cross is made up of 9 crosslets or mini crosses, which represent the 9 dioceses that met in Philadelphia in 1789 to form the Protestant Episcopal Church of the United States. The cross that sits on the rear doss of the church is called a Calvary cross. It can be called a step cross and it can also be called the Great Cross. Now it's called the Calvary Cross because it is a Latin cross that sits on 3 steps. Now that can be considered the hill of Golgotha, where Christ was crucified. The 3 steps can also be referred to as representing faith, hope, and love. Now there's a cross on the right-hand side on your handout, on the upper right-hand side. And it is my remembrance of somehow that particular cross was given to us by a parish outside of the diocese. That cross hangs above, keeping watch over the priests. There's a bench in the courtyard, a long stone bench. That's the picture in the center. That was at one time a lintel in the area where the offices used to be before the reconstruction and the addition. So just little bits and pieces here and around the church.
All right, we will go to ECW and Mary Parker.
Okay, what can I say that the ECW has been around for a long time. It's every woman that belongs to Emmanuel is an ECW member. Don't have to come to the meetings. We send you postcards if we need something, and you always respond. Anyway, but the ECW has been around for a long time, and it used to be in different guilds. There were so many that there were too many for one meeting. Well, now we have one group. We don't have many guilds, but we have one group. And you know, Greta had asked about what historical event, and I don't know if ECW has any one particular event, a historical event that we would like to put forward, but I think just known for hospitality, whether it be a small gathering or a large gathering of, like when all the bishops were here visiting before we elected our new bishop for South Dakota, that we can do it small or large, and everyone usually always feels welcome here.
I found this in my information that was handed to me in January. Mary and I have 2-year terms as officers, and Nancy Bryant is our treasurer, and Mary is our secretary. But I also want to commend Mary now for heading up all the decorations for many funeral receptions that we've had so far this year, and she takes ideas from the family and personalizes them to make a very nice funeral reception for the friends and family of the ones that have passed away. I want to read the Emmanuel Episcopal Church Women's Mission Statement. It's timeless. I just found it the other day, honestly, in the binder. But they've said this in the past, and we will say it in the present and in the future. The Emmanuel Episcopal Church Women, ECW, with the grace of the Holy Spirit, shares the love of God by making Christ known in the world through outreach, fellowship, prayer, concern for others, and joyful service. So, and this is also, we read these little cards at the end of my meetings, and it's a prayer card. So this is timeless also. I'm sure the women have been saying this prayer at the end of their meetings for years, and probably will continue to say it for years. But I won't read the card now, but just know we have a lot of structure to our meetings, and we always close with a very nice prayer, similar to our mission statement. So what I see changing from the past to the future is more online. We text, we email, we still do phone calls and in-person visitations, but online advertising, for example, is something they didn't do in the past probably as much as we are doing now, with the media being contacted for all of our different fundraisers and such.
Beth and Vicki are here for the Altar Guild. But some may not know that Beth is also the daughter of Beverly Troll, and she has a video, again, told by Donna Burnap, and I believe there were 13 or 14 guilds that Beverly described to Donna for that succession as well. But it's, you know, one of the great things about any organization is how you pass the torch forward. And obviously, we have family members here that are still coming, and those that have that are deceased. And so that's just a really tangible way of saying how do we pass things on through the generations. And of course, Beverly was well known for her hospitality and her involvement, and so now her daughter is doing the same. So Beth?
Good morning. I've been a member of Emmanuel for 58 years, and was involved in a lot of these things that people are talking about, from Christian care leaders, just miniature versions of the choir with our little velvet hats, and ECW and Altar Guild, whether it was more often than not by choice, but just drug along by my mom. But it was a nice way for me to see how things were done. And, you know, I always knew that I would be involved in like Altar Guild later on, which I haven't really been an official member of Altar Guild for very long. But so Vicki and I kind of divided up the questions, and I have a historical question. And the one thing that stands out for me is when we moved the altar. So you see on the pictures there, the altar was at the very front where the choir sits right now. And so we moved it to the center, with the choir to the back. And I have to be honest with you, that was really tough on a lot of us old Emmanuelites. It was, speaking for the Altar Guild, the fair linens that go across the altar didn't fit, so we had to adjust that way. It was a bit of a cluster trying to figure out how to take communion around the center and walk around, where before we were doing 2 lines up to the altar. But the one positive thing is it brought the celebrant out to the center, where before he was always talking, facing the cross, kind of with his back to us. And so it made it more involvement with the congregation. You could see what he was doing, and before it was all like the magic's happening behind his back. But it was an adjustment. I think we adjusted pretty well. I'll turn this over to Vicki. He's not here today because he has to work, but my husband is also on the Altar Guild. So I encourage any men that want to do the Altar Guild to do that. He's been very helpful to the ladies. There's a lot of lifting and moving and getting up on things, so he's been helpful in that way. But it's also a behind the scenes thing that you can partake in, that it isn't necessarily just a ladies' guild. There's so much that a man can offer to help us out, and we would appreciate more men.
Okay, my part is talking about what is the difference today and how are we going to go in the future. The guild, Altar Guild, is still, I guess, one of the ministries in the church that is still going, that has actually that name. The differences I'm thinking of today are with technology, basically our lifestyles, church membership, and how we want to preserve our history. So as far as technology goes, as the Altar Guild, we used to meet once a month in person, and it was usually in the evening. And as the years have gone by and our membership, we have older people weren't wanting to get out at night. So we have changed that now, and we will meet occasionally, probably about 2 or 3 times a year, kind of seasonally with Lenten, Advent, that type of thing. But in the meantime, you know, how do you keep connected? Because that's really part of being in community. So what we do is we still work in groups of 2s every week, and so we do have that communication with each other. It is a challenge because basically how we're keeping together is through emails, texting, and phone calls. And I guess probably those of you who are younger realize that even emails now are kind of becoming obsolete. But that is the way we're doing it right now. Talk about the world moving faster and church membership. We hear all the time about church membership being down, and I don't think it's necessarily due to necessarily people being indifferent, but it's about schedules. There's a lot of activities that are planned on Sundays. People have to work. So all of those things we take into consideration, but in the meantime, that does affect our membership and getting younger people involved. We do have tradition, and as was mentioned by Greta, that in the Altar Guild, we do have 2 members, and that's Beth and Jennifer Shining, whose mothers did participate in Altar Guild, and now it's wonderful seeing these 2 young girls follow and have an interest and enthusiasm for what we need to carry on in our tradition. One of the things that I think about with the Altar Guild, there's some things that are never going to change, regardless of how far into the future we go. We do know with technology, it's going to change immediately, just almost from day to day. We're moving so fast. But one of the things that's not changed is basically our ministry. And we're going to always have people that are dedicated to preparing the church for whether it be our worship services or whatever services are taking place. And we're going to know that we always want people to learn about the church. And actually through the Altar Guild, that's one of the best educational things you could probably do. So I'd say for our hope and our challenge really is, as people, older people, we need to acknowledge the younger people and create a love of learning about the church, its history, tradition, the liturgy. So everything that we've learned, we can continue to pass on and continue in the future to make our church a vital part of our community.
So we'll wrap things up. I would just, again, there are 2 videos that Beverly shared. One about her time during being a part of Emmanuel, a lifetime of that, and the traveling centennial quilt that discusses the 3 Episcopal churches as well as those across the state. Let's give our panelists a round of applause, please. So thank you so much for your time and interest, and it's a really exciting project. Even though we're going to depart to warmer weather, I'm still going to be involved with working on the collection and perhaps doing remotely a program or 2. So we'll miss you, but we're going to keep the work going forward. Touch that screen all you want. There'll be periodic updates probably every quarter. But again, really excited about the project and all of your involvement with it. So thank you.